Have you ever noticed how your mind behaves like a stranger at night? During the day, you feel functional. You reply, you move, you pretend you're okay, you handle life. But at night, when the room gets quiet, when the screen goes dark, your mind becomes heavier. Not dramatic, just heavy. And the worst part is, you can't explain it. You lie down to rest, and suddenly your brain starts working like it has a job interview tomorrow. It brings back memories you didn't invite, conversations you already survived, regrets you thought you buried. And you ask yourself, why now? Why at night? Here's the first truth. The night doesn't create your thoughts. It exposes them. During the day, you are not calm. You are distracted. You are managed by motion, tasks, noise, people, pressure. And that busyness is not peace. It is sedation. At night, sedation ends, and the mind finally speaks. Carl Jung believed that what we avoid doesn't disappear. It moves into the shadow, and the shadow doesn't die. It waits. So if your mind feels heavy at night, listen carefully. This is not random. This is your shadow showing you what you've been ignoring with your daytime personality. Because during the day, you wear a mask. Not a fake mask, a survival mask. You become the version of yourself that functions, that smiles, that says, "I'm fine," that responds, that keeps going. Jung called this the persona, the social self, the acceptable self, and most people live trapped inside it. So what happens at night? At night, the persona loses power. You stop performing, and when performance ends, the real psychological content rises. That is why the night feels heavier than the day. Now let's get scientific for a moment, because trust matters. Your brain has a system that becomes more active when you're not focused on the outside world. Neuroscience calls it the default mode network. This network is connected to self-reflection, memory, and inner storytelling. In simple words, it is the part of your brain that asks questions like, what is my life? What did that moment mean? Why did I let that happen? Why do I still feel this? During the day, the default mode network is interrupted constantly. You get pulled outward. At night, it activates. And when it activates, you don't just remember, you feel. That's why a memory at night has weight, because it comes with emotion attached. Now add a second factor, mental fatigue. Throughout the day, you spend psychological energy controlling yourself. You hold back anger. You pretend you're okay. You stay polite. You keep moving. That takes effort. And by night, your self-control resources are lower. Not because you are weak, because you are human. So the same thought you could ignore at 2 p.m. becomes a problem at 2 a.m. Not because the thought got bigger, because you got tired. And here comes something most people don't understand. Your brain is not designed to make you happy. It is designed to keep you alive. So when the night comes, your brain enters a subtle scanning mode. Silence and darkness reduce external information, and the brain does what it always does when information is low. It searches for threat. It searches for what could go wrong. It searches for what is unresolved. This is why negative thoughts feel louder at night. Not because you are broken, because your nervous system becomes more sensitive. This also explains why anxiety often feels worse at night. When you have fewer distractions, the body becomes easier to read, and people who live under chronic stress start noticing their internal sensations more. A tight chest, a restless stomach, a racing mind. And now your mind starts explaining those sensations with stories. What if my future is ruined? What if I never become successful? What if I'm wasting my life? This is how overthinking begins, not as a choice, as a reaction. Now, let's make it personal. There's a reason your mind chooses night to attack you, because at night, you can't run. During the day, you run through noise. At night, there is nowhere to hide. And what you call heavy mind is often one of three things: unprocessed emotion, unresolved meaning, or unmet need. Let me give you a human example. Someone can laugh all day, talk normally, even joke, but at night they suddenly remember a small thing, a message that wasn't replied to, a tone in someone's voice, a moment they felt disrespected, and suddenly the brain starts building a courtroom. You become the judge, the witness, and the person on trial. You replay the scene again and again, and you think you are thinking, but you're not thinking. You're ruminating. Rumination is not problem solving. It's emotional looping. It keeps the pain alive by replaying it without resolution. And here's the dark part. Many people confuse rumination with intelligence. They believe that if they analyze enough, they will finally feel safe. But safety doesn't come from analysis. It comes from regulation. That's why nights are brutal for overthinkers, because the mind tries to create safety through control, but the night gives you uncertainty, not control. So you loop. Now let me explain something that will change how you see this. The more you try to force your mind to stop, the worse it becomes, because thought suppression has a known psychological effect. When you say, "Don't think about it," your brain keeps checking if you're thinking about it, so the thought returns, again and again. That is why you can't sleep. Not because you have too many thoughts, but because you are fighting the thoughts. Resistance increases intensity. This is why some people lie in bed and feel trapped, because the bed becomes a psychological arena. And in that arena, the mind brings everything you avoided: your shame, your fear, your loneliness, your unanswered questions. And it speaks in a cruel language. What if you're not enough? What if you fail? What if people leave? What if you're wasting your life? But listen to me carefully. A thought is not always truth. Sometimes a thought is just a symptom of exhaustion, a symptom of unresolved emotion, a symptom of a nervous system that never truly rests. So instead of asking, "Why am I like this?" ask a better question. What has my mind been carrying silently? Because the heaviness at night is often the bill you pay for the emotional debt you created during the day. Every time you swallowed your feelings, every time you stayed silent when you wanted to speak, every time you said yes when you meant no, every time you acted fine when you were not, you didn't process the emotion, you postponed it, and the night collects it. Now we go even deeper. Jung spoke of the shadow not as evil, but as everything you did not allow yourself to be. Your anger, your desire, your ambition, your boundaries, your truth. If you live a life where you are constantly performing, the shadow grows. And at night, when performance ends, the shadow comes forward. Not to destroy you, to be integrated. Because what you refuse to face consciously, you meet unconsciously. And the unconscious always feels heavier. This is why nighttime heaviness is not always anxiety. Sometimes it is the psyche demanding honesty. The psyche saying, "Stop pretending, stop running, stop abandoning yourself." And most people never listen. They numb it, they scroll, they binge, they eat, they distract. And the next day they repeat. But the heaviness stays, because it's not about the night, it's about your life. Now, what do you do with this? First, stop trying to solve your life at midnight. Night is not for solutions. Night is for calming the system. The smartest thing you can do at night is not to think harder, it is to create psychological safety, because the brain cannot relax if it senses danger. So you give it cues of safety: slow breathing, lower light, no bright screens, no intense music. And when thoughts come, you don't fight them, you label them. This is important. You don't say, "This is true." You say, "This is a thought." You don't say, "My life is ruined." You say, "My mind is generating fear right now." This small separation is powerful because it breaks identification, and identification is what makes thoughts heavy. Now, here's a technique that feels simple but works psychologically. Write the thought down.